Oh, now you've started. Okay, restarted.
Okay, now you're all making me nervous. Normally, I'm not the person who gets nervous that
You're
easily.
looking very good.
Uh, oh my God. But still, that doesn't, that doesn't takes the nervousness from me, but good it is recording. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first webcast of 2025. And first of all, a very happy 2025 to all of you and all your loved ones. HR 2025 challenges, predictions, and the role of SHRM in shaping the future. I'm Achal Khanna, CEO of SHRM East, and I'm delighted to have you join this significant, most important conversation at the beginning of the year. SHRM creates better workplaces where employees and employers thrive together. SHRM is a member driven catalyst for creating better workplaces where people and businesses thrive together. As the trusted authority on all things work, SHRM is the foremost expert, researcher, advocate, and thought leader on the issues and innovations impacting today's evolving workplaces. With nearly 340,000 members in 180 countries, SHRM touches the lives of more than 362 million workers and their families globally. So, most trusted advisors for you all professionals who is listening to this webcast. As organizations are navigating period of rapid transformation driven by AI, technology, workforces, evolution, shifting global priorities, we at SHRM believe in collaboration, empathy, civil behavior at workplaces, respect for each other. These actions are key to building the future of workplaces, happy workplaces, which will automatically give return on investments to your organization. In that spirit, I am honored and so thrilled to have the SHRM India Advisory Council for next 2 years, 2020 from 2024 to 2026, a distinguished panel, visionary leaders who will guide SHRM's strategy vision over the next 2 years. On our first podcast of the year, couldn't have started our year in a better way. Once again, I wish you all a very, very happy 2025. Allow me to introduce these wonderful, esteemed council members. D. Shiv Kumar. Shiv, a celebrated management thinker and guru, and my mentor, Chairman MTPL and Advent Company. Shiv has led organizations like PepsiCo India and Nokia in emerging markets and taken them to next level. As chair of SHRM conferences and council, he brings unparalleled wisdom to elevate our events and initiatives, and he guides me personally and many of SHRM leaders. Now he will be guiding you all too. He has promised me to do that. Raj Nayak, a very, very happy person and brings in full of happiness and energy, founder of House of Cheer and a trailblazer in media industry. Raj has redefined strategy and growth in Indian entertainment, inspiring organizations to innovate with a human first approach. Richard Reiki, former CEO of KPMG India and current vice chair of Grant Thornton Bharat. Richard brings decades of leadership and unmatched governance expertise to the council. Pranjal Sharma, a renowned economic analyst and author, Pranjal's expertise in emerging technologies and sustainable growth continues to shape enterprises and thought leadership globally. Last but not the least, our diversity candidate, in, means even I am a diversity candidate, Pavitra Singh, as a head of HR At PepsiCo India, Pavitra drives impactful strategies in talent development, diversity, and inclusion, creating workplaces, cultures where people and innovation thrive together. So, this is our important council members with diversity, different uh, businesses, diversity of business, diversity of culture, and diversity of leadership. So they will be giving their insight to our first podcast. Together, we will explore the critical challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for HR and people managers as we prepare for 2025. Their perspective and solutions would be easy to implement to our and our dynamic workplaces and challenges. INXGE, where we are taught Six Sigma and simplification. So they have gone through the complexities of workplaces, but the solution they will give would be simplified. You can simply implement in your workplaces. It is the collective insight that will enable SHRM to deliver meaningful initiatives and empower organizations for the future. So, my first question would be to all my panelists, no hierarchy, whosoever can start, but I will put Shiv on the spot. As we look forward towards the 2025, what do you see as the single most critical challenge or opportunity for HR and people managers in building future ready organizations?
Okay, thank you, Achal, the boss, for that great introduction and getting this panel together. So before I answer what single specific thing is important for any organization with respect to people, I'll give you the context of it. Raj's organization last year published a report which said that 70% of Indian employees are unhappy. We know that from various studies, more than 80% of employees are disengaged across the world. I think highest engagement is 13 or 14%. Okay, that is not good. Okay, that's not a happy situation at all for anybody. Next, we see that this whole concept of well-being and mental health is gaining a lot of ground in every single area. And if I look at the Indian stock market specifically, 20% of Indian households today have invested in the stock market. Why is that important? Because 5 years ago, that same number was 7%. So it's tripled in 5 years' time. So you put this all together, the single most important thing I believe for organizations to tackle, if they can, but they should, is job security. Job security is number 1 or 2 in every single study we've seen in India. So without job security, you do not have engagement, you do not have commitment, you do not have long-term thinking, you do not have capable people. So whatever an organization can do, if it can give a sense of job security to people when they're so worried, I think that will help a lot. That would be my input.
Okay, let's hear Richard's view because mental health and job security, both financial resilient, financial security is both are important. What do you have to say, Richard? Richard, we can't hear you.
Thanks for inviting me on the council and on your advisory council, and hopefully I can contribute something. But when you have all the stalwarts sitting here, I'll do my little bit out here. So I think I agree with Shiv completely on the 2 points he raised, which are, so I'm not going to repeat it because, but I think, today we have to understand technology has overtaken all of us, and it is very pervasive into everything. So how does HR align themselves with this new technology? How they able to integrate the new technology into their processes at the same time, not losing the human touch? The biggest problem we have is technology is taking away the human touch with people. This hybrid work is taking people away from, meeting each other. So I think the HR's big challenges are going to be how do they maintain the culture, the connectivity with the people, keeping them engaged, all these good things that we learned in the non-AI age, where you kept people engaged. Now, how do you use the new technology to help you? So, so I was just reflecting on this, and I was one of the biggest challenges. I don't know whether somewhere I was reading the guy who invented AI is now disassociated himself from the AI, saying that now he would like to become an advocate for ethical AI. And so I think that's a very important thing. Employees need to feel trusted that the system is actually looking at them. And also, like I would again repeat very importantly, how do we get the employee engagement back, which is there? So they need to work out ways in which they can collaborate. And I would also, the DEI is something used. I would say, I would call it DIB. We should add belonging to it also. How do we bring the belonging to the people? Because everything is a two-way street. We always look at a one-way street from the employer's point of view. But what about the employee's point of view? How are we looking at it? So AI, actually, technology helps in giving that personalized experience. You see, we have moved to mass personalization, or I heard it from Pranjal once. He said, I don't know the word he used, maybe he can use it better, but mass personalization. So I think personalize this thing to employees. And how do you create tailor-made journeys for employees where you are improving their productivity, and also flexible work architectures, I would say. How do we create, the flexible work? It's a reality we have to live with. So, and I would say here's a time for organizations, Anchal, to look at how does the higher purpose, which some organizations have, can be now brought to the table, because purpose drives people. And if we have a higher purpose out there, I think that will drive a lot of people to actually come forward and say it. So it's important if we want future-ready organizations, we want organizations to be resilient, and we want them to be innovative. These are few suggestions I can leave. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, purpose is very, very important for organizations to be future ready. That's a very important point you have said, to employees to be well. I would say the CHRM has just launched a culture in global culture report, which was presented at G20, and I'm very happy to share, and we will share it with our members. India is employees are the most engaged. India come as a country as a topmost. So I was very happy because I'm a very proud Indian first and then proud Sharmite, and I always say that. On that note, I would put Raj on spot, because where we are talking about job security is extremely important, but he left his job security to make workplace a happy culture, and he's promoting that, and he was really working hard on that. So Raj, I would like to hear how you are making organization future ready.
So I would first like to take a leaf out of what Shiv said in
Okay.
terms of job security. I think this has become more important post the pandemic. Okay. And at the same time, there's also a contradiction to that, that today the loyalty that an employer and employee had with each other no longer exists. Because earlier, if somebody worked in an organization, they worked for 15 years, 20 years. But today, if you see I was watching a report yesterday on one of the news channels where there's a report saying that Gen Z organizations don't want to hire Gen Z, and Gen Zs are unpredictable, you know. But what Shiv said, and I want to emphasize that one of the biggest thing people are looking for today, more than job security, is within an organization, is psychological safety. People want to feel respected, they want to be valued. And I always say this, people work for three things. They first work for respect, then recognition, and then reward, and in that order. Most organizations make the mistake of thinking that paisa feko tamasha deko, it doesn't happen. And I can give an example, because I quit my job at the peak of my career, okay, where I had everything going for me. So money was not a problem, corner office was not a problem, but somewhere I'm still today not able to put a finger to it. But and when somebody asked me, there was a podcast done by a guy from London called George Anderson. He said, "What could the organization have done to retain you?" And I said, honestly, they tried everything. In any organization, the first thing they do is, when you put in your resignation, is give you a bigger job responsibility. They actually give you more work. Okay, or they'll try to create a bigger designation and probably try and offer you more money. And I said, my organization did that as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. But nobody asked me, what am I feeling? How are you feeling? Everybody wanted to fix the problem. And this is something, the penny drops now. Years ago, when I was working for Star TV and I used to travel 20 days a month, I used to come back home. And my wife used to ask me, saying that, we have this problem. And I said, we'll fix it. She said, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to sit down and I want you to listen to me. That was one of the biggest things. I think that is one thing organizations need to learn, is to listen to their people, first thing. And two, if people are not respected, they're going to leave you. You can give somebody $1 million, you give them 10 galis a day, they'll say, "Rakh lo apni naukri, main to ja raha hu." If you give them respect, and if there's psychological safety, even if they are paid little less than what the market is, they'll say, "You know what? It's a great organization. I'm happy here. I'll stay." And we've seen a recent unfortunate incident that happened where somebody committed suicide. And these are some of the issues that have come in media, but there are many issues where people are afraid to speak up. I think one thing which organizations need to look at is, if they are able to, we've always defined success by profit, by designation and things like that. I think organizations need to look at, if they keep their people happy, if their employees are happy, even if they're paying them less, the employees are going to stay, because what is important is you need to get them involved. Once you make them involved, they feel they have ownership, they will take accountability. That's my small
Very, very well said. And, means we at SHRM started last year, or like this year, 2024, 1 million civil conversation. It is all about psychological safety, that you need to be respectful to your fellow colleagues, your subordinates, your seniors, your peers. It is extremely important to be respectful and recognize people. On that note, I would go to Pavitra. Pavitra, how are you driving employee engagement, and how are, you are a HR head of a big company. So what are you doing to be ready for 2025?
Yeah. No, I think I'll first take a lead from what Shiv said and what Raj said, right? I think today there is far more complexity.
Please don't ignore Richard. He also said very.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm taking a lead specifically from what they mentioned, right? Because what we what we're seeing today is there's a lot of complexity that has come into our lives, right? And the uncertainties are going to grow even more. And therefore, in today's context, burnout, is something that is really coming out loud. We are seeing increased workload. People are talking about in different surveys that the workload has increased. And therefore, in that context, what are we really doing? First, starting with listening. Are we really listening and understanding the pulse of what the employees are saying? I think it begins from that. Secondly, what is the kind of focus that we are doing on wellness and well-being? And when I say wellness and well-being, it's not really just about emotional. It's important to understand emotions at play, but it's also financial, it's also physical, right? That's at one end of the spectrum. But at the other end of the spectrum is also, are we simplifying the way we do work? And therefore clearing the plate and making space to really take over the complexities that are constantly coming our way. So I think organizations really need to start thinking through more holistically, right? Starting from listening to making sure that we're taking care of the well-being of the employee, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, and then also making sure that we're simplifying, their lives and workload through systems, and AI will play a very important role here. So I would say that's what I would do, and that would be my area of focus getting into 2025.
Great, Pavitra. And now I will like to hear Pranjal, because he speaks at Davos and what all is happening. He will get to hear from all the global organizations. So if you can give your perspective, whether purpose is important, whether money is important, whether cheer is important, what is happening from the global front, Pranjal? Over to you.
Thank you, Achal, and it is great to hear everybody. It's difficult to say something which has not been said, but I'll build on what Richard said actually, because I think culture is important. But let me just step back a little bit and say that in the last decade alone, India has moved from being a fragile 5 economy to being amongst the top 5. If you look at the economic development curve of any country, there is we are at a very interesting phase. The thinking mindset of 10 years ago and where we are today, there's a huge shift in the confidence level of entrepreneurs, of business leaders, etc. However, we've also gone through this pain of COVID. There is the rise of the Gen Z and millennials, which are now in very important positions of being strong consumers, citizens, and professionals. So, if you look at it today, I would say, let me go to some very fundamental questions, Achal. Today, the desperation for a job among the urban youth is far lower than it used to be even 15 years ago or 10 years ago. Why should they work? I mean, most of them in the urban regions have a family background which is by and large stable. There are a lot of welfare schemes which are giving some kind of monetary cushion to people in the rural areas as well. So the urge to join an organization and effectively be a slave to a corporate where they don't really have an alignment with is much lower today than it used to be. So the question is, what is going to inspire them to come to an organization and work? Now, I would like, Raj talked about reward, recognition, and respect. I would say there are 3 C's which I would focus on, and it aligns with what Richard said. I would say culture, connect, and caring. Culture is very important because anybody who wants to join an organization wants to be part of a culture that they feel aligned with. Connect is part of that. That am I? It is another way of saying that is there a purpose to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and caring. They want to be part of a larger system, but they also want to be part of a ecosystem which is caring not just for themselves, but also for the output and outcome of what the organization is doing. So if you look at culture, connect, and caring, unless those elements are in place, it'll be difficult to inspire people. Now, connect is very critical because I think Shiv, Raj, and Pavitra also mentioned it that why would I be involved with you? Because the sense of self is far more important today than it used to be. Earlier, we were happy to subsume ourselves in a larger organization and say, well, I'm working with this and I'm just a cog in the wheel. But today, the sense that I am important, my own self worth and my self health is important has become so pronounced that unless an organization is able to feed into that and connect on that front, I think it'll be difficult. So as we look at the 25, 26, there will have to be a reset of relationship between organizations and people.
Very well said. Reset of relationship between organization and people. And when I hear and summarize what Shiv said, that job security is important, but mental health is equally important. Richard talked about purpose is very important. Means can you imagine one biggest financial wizard, CFO and head of a organization which is which is like doing audits and so many audits and juggling with financial numbers, talking about purpose and talking about mental health. Raj talking about respect, recognition, and reward, and same thing, Pavitra talking about engagement, employee engagement. And I would say that these are all thought-provoking insights, perspective. And one thing is clear now more than ever, it is HR which is on the driving seat. Because all these are softer issues to engage your employees. And if we interview the CEOs of this age, and if we ask them what keeps them up at night, they would say people, people, and people. And that is why if you are not a good listener, it is only HR who is going to be a good listener, as Raj said, or all of you said. So it would be in this dynamic world of 2025, 2026, HR will play a very, very key role in running the organizations.
You
Now,
just
my
multiplied Pavitra's CV value.
I
I
mean,
agree.
absolutely, and I also feel very good that I run an organization which is focused on people managers, which we all are. And we definitely, Pavitra is the most important person here right now, because she would be driving the business and not anymore. Means everybody is important, but HR plays
Yeah.
that it was realized by COVID, when everybody was asked to work from home. HR played a very, very critical role, and technology played a very critical role. Moving to the individual questions, and again, I'm going to put Shiv on spot. How do you see leadership styles evolving to address the challenges of hybrid workforce by 2025?
Yeah. So when I look at 2025, Achal, I think the common platform or module will be technology. Technology is impacting leadership much more than how or what leaders see it to be impacting. So I think technology will impact leadership styles in three ways. Number one, most organizations are command and control structures where information goes up the chain and orders come down the chain. With technology, we democratize information across the value chain. So leaders will have to move their organizations from what I call a command and control to a collaborate and commit system. That's the first thing which technology is doing to a structure. The second thing technology is doing is it's hastening the life cycle in every category. It's hastening the life cycle and the demise of every brand. So thanks to technology, every organization has to get agile while adapting to the new world. If you adapt, but you're slow, you die. If you adapt and you're agile, you survive. So that's the second imperative of technology in terms of a leadership style. So leaders have to set the pace in the organization. That's the second one. The last one I would say is with the advent of AI and everybody wanting to use AI, etc., on the data set, leaders must develop the ability to ask very good questions and not delegate the task to AI. Taking the data and the insight what comes from AI would be a blind alley kind of a decision. You have to ask very smart questions in this tech era to get the most out of AI and the data set you have. So those are the three fundamental shifts in leadership styles that I see going into 2025.
Great points. Means you are saying not only leader should be good listener, but he should also ask intelligent questions in this AI world. And also, my boss also says that, your title alone does not make you leader, but what actions and impacts and influence you create also makes you a good leader. So that's also very, very important. Now I will go to the chairman of Grant Thornton, Mr. Richard Reiki. How can organization enhance governance and strengthen employee trust as they transition into the future of work? And in this, where do you bring purpose? Means
Yeah. So, so I'll tell you first thing. The last half an hour we have been talking about burnout. We have been talking of people not being scared of losing their jobs, etc., and their workload increased. I mean, that's the general themes coming out. I think companies need to relook at the entire business models. I mean, I want to start there. I know it is because the business model, I think, is now not working in its current form. Margins have gone down, and because of that, people are working harder. I can tell that for the consulting firm. I'm just giving that viewpoint out there. So people are being trammed, and actually the lowest level, there are two sets of people. There are the most senior people and the junior. The most senior people are still enjoying life. I'm sorry if I'm just putting it there, but the junior people are getting flogged. The lowest common denominator actually gets impacted. And I think that is going to be something which is going to be that needs to get addressed. Number two, I think there needs to be relearning of the leadership. I think Shiv pointed out on some leadership skills which need to get done. I think leaders need to be retrained. They need to be understanding, become more empathetic to their people. They need to connect. I'll give you a very simple example. How many leaders walk down the corridor, walk down the bay and meet their people, give appreciation? I can tell you from my personal experience, if you give appreciate somebody, it's remembered 20 years, 25 years after it was given. You give money, it'll get forgotten. They don't even remember what bonus they got the last year or the 2 years back. So I think we have to move away from this entire money kind of thing to the connect. And that's where I come to higher purpose. Achal, just to give you an example, in KPMG, we launched higher purpose 15 years back or 12 years back. And even today, when I meet people at the airport, they said the single biggest impact we had at KPMG was a higher purpose launch, and what we miss it. So I think the higher purpose got people to do things which is nothing to do with their job. It is beyond their job. I always say a job is your current account, your higher purpose is your capital account. That's when you ask the why of your life, why I come to office, what will happen if anything. So I think higher purpose is it's not a soft thing. It's very important because it is the glue which binds people to an organization. If we can get the higher purpose right, we would be able to get the people actually bound. And I would also put one more thing. When we talk of, and I'm putting it again, mental health is very important. I would say that is, and not just talk about it. I think the time is moved from empathy to compassion. For me, compassion is empathy in action. It's not just going and asking a guy how you're feeling. Yeah, Pranjal, how are you feeling today? I mean, how do I actually go and help him, support him? And organizations need to actually walk that extra mile. And also employees should feel that there's an honesty and fairness in the process. So for that, you need to involve them now. You need to, take their views, ask them, and then put something in. So, but one caution I'll say at the same time, Gen Z is only place where you can hire now. Actually, you'll have to get, whether they come or not, you'll have to go and get them in. So whether they come as gig workers, whether they come as in any other form that we'll have to look at, flexible work hours, all this organization will need to quickly deal with. Otherwise, the organization is going to suffer because it's going to be people who drive organizations. The governance part comes from leaders. They need to be retrained. The board has to set the culture. But I think the important point is the person on the ground. People join organization, they leave managers. They don't leave organization, they leave managers. And I think that is something that we need to do it. And secondly, I would say it's time for leaders to stand up and actually live the values they profess from the stage. They need to live those values through how they engage with employees. So coming back, employee engagement is again very, very important, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful thoughts, Richard. Means I just love each one of them. In the shortage of time, I'm not going to repeat it,
Sure.
but I will move straight to Pranjal on his question. How do you foresee technology, particularly AI? Everybody's scared of AI, how they will take our jobs and automation transforming talent strategies by 2025.
So, Achal, I'll build on the idea of reset of relationships. See, technology has created a lot of excitement, but also a lot of anxiety. And let me say that we are talking about millennials as Gen Z, but I can say with confidence that a lot of CXOs I deal with are in equal panic mode because their own roles are being transformed in a way that they don't realize. Across the board, across all the functions, every CXO now has to deal with a talent crisis for themselves. The board expect them to know everything about AI and how technology is transforming various elements of the enterprise. So there is panic at that level as well. So let's not just look at the challenges for managing Gen Z. Therefore, I would say that in the reset of relationship, we have to look at the fact that the words like managing people may not be relevant because today, what everybody is looking for is work, not a career. People are looking for livelihood, not employment. And this is very important for us to understand because technology is enabling this. If I have a skill, I don't want to give my entire, mind, body, and soul to an organization for that. I will rent my skill. Let the organization pay me for the skill that I have, and let me do whatever I feel like for the rest of the time. I don't have to be sitting and warming a seat from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is what a typical structure in an organization expects that you have to come to office. And while we talk about hybrid work culture, even in a hybrid culture, you are expected to be on demand, on call all the time. So I think that is going to change. Second, technology is allowing is that we have to reset the relationship. The concept of employee and employer will not be the future. I think it will have to be a partnership. You see that in the gig economy right now, where you see driver partners or delivery partners, but we look at them, thinking of them as blue collar workers. But really, you see them in white collar situations as well, where everybody says, "I have a skill. I will work with you as a equal partner." So I will just close on the point that technology is going to shift the perspectives and the approach that people have towards their livelihood and work. And organizations will also therefore have to reset their approach and not say that I'm going to be managing a herd of people, I'm going to be the shepherd, but it's really going to be how can we collaborate together to have an output and an outcome which benefits everybody.
Thank you. Means I love the statement Richard made. Purpose is very important, not money. And you are saying livelihood and not employment. Means it is like it really resonates. But I'll go to Pavitra in regard to how your experience and how you can drive inclusion and diversity to foster innovation in workplace, and specifically like right now 4 generations are working together, so it's very challenging. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So thanks, Achal, for the question. I think firstly, innovation happens with diversity of thought, right? When you encourage people to be themselves and voice and contribute freely. And therefore very important for organizations to also create platforms, where you can give people, and 4 generations especially, right? And I remember we did this, in the past where we had a youth committee, that was actually working in parallel to the ExCom, the leadership committee. And the objective of the youth committee was really to kind of come up with ideas, and brilliant ideas and thoughts, because we empowered them and we gave them a space to voice. And that's what sparked a lot of innovative ideas. So it does happen. Diversity, of course, triggers innovation. But I think for me, what is really important is, while people talk about and emphasize a lot on diversity, and it's important, and you have to be intentional while driving diversity, but what's more important is inclusion, and I would flip the whole coin. When we say DEI, I would flip it to IND, right? Because at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
taking a leaf from Richard and what he said, right? Inclusion is an emotion, a feeling of belongingness to a particular place or a group, while diversity is just a pure number. And I've seen magic really happen when people feel belonged, respected, for what they bring to the table. And this is where I feel organizations play a very important role to create and demonstrate that inclusion, whether it's starting from having allies at workplace, or, really focusing on sensitization workshops, or leaders, and very important, leaders role modeling these behaviors. And simple things, right? And I've seen leaders who are, who demonstrate inclusion, by simply, asking people around the table during a meeting, and, seeking their participation is a simple way. But a lot of leaders just don't do that because they don't want to listen to a diverse thought. So I think just demonstrating through simple steps can go a long way in building this inclusion. Secondly, very important to have some policies, practices. So if you're really driving inclusion, it can't be a tick mark. You need to demonstrate it through policies, practices, whether these are gender agnostic policies like simple primary, secondary care policy, sabbatical, which I have benefited, by the way, right? And it's again based on different life stages and needs. It's not a gender conversation anymore, or it could be a simple child travel care policy with the nanny to enable women in field roles, right? I think that plays a very important role. And lastly, just having role models and mentors can be game changers, right? Just, having them to, reach out to, having them just help and just be the sounding board is very important. And, I would end by saying that we talk about the bro code, but I think the cis code is a very powerful concept, right? And we need in the whole, inclusion DEI space, we need more and more women to lift more women, and pay it forward. So strong concept, but I think we really need to demonstrate intentionally.
I
So
totally
you and
agree.
Achal can continue this panel. Others will drop out. With
No,
this,
nobody
need
will
allies
come.
as well,
It is
Shiv.
so interesting. They're all online and there are more and more people joining.
I'm
I
just
can
pulling
say
your
I
leg.
love this word belonging. It is very, very important. And also, it is not only on women, because these days, even there are single fathers too, and we need to respect them too. And my last question is to Raj. What role do you employee well-being and mental health plays in building high performance organization of future?
I like what Richard said. He said purpose, right? If you ask any human being, what's your ultimate purpose in life? They'll say roti, kapda, bangla, makan. You keep on probing, and at the end of the day, they'll say, I want to be happy. Right? That's the ultimate purpose of every human being, to be happy. One of the things organizations should realize in today's era is mental well-being or physical well-being is non-negotiable. You cannot ignore it. And more cases are coming up. And one of the things is organizations need to focus on this area. And the one way of doing that is by listening to people. I'll tell you, Shiv mentioned that engagement studies now have dropped down by almost 80%. We run a happiness quotient survey with organizations, and we've gamified the whole experience. So it's not just a plain question mark, it's a deck of cards, 52 cards, people play, submit. So our participation rate is 89%. Our completion rate is 96%. And I'm giving you not just one organization, I'm talking about 40 organizations that we worked with so far. Okay. And what is the simple difference that we made? You look at any engagement studies, the questions that are asked is it's basically it is interrogation. How is your boss? How is the environment? How is this? How is that? All we did was we said, if you want to get people involved, it needs to be introspective. All you do is say, in a situation like this, Pranjal, how would you have behaved with Pavitra? What has it done? It has done two things. One, even if Pranjal doesn't give a real answer, it tells him, we are seeding the thought in his head that there is another way of dealing with the same problem, right? It changes the whole equation. So I think that's a secondary thing. It all depends on, if your people are involved, everything else will follow. You don't need to do anything else. I used to always say that the job of a CA is only one thing. People who work in the organization, if you can create that adrenaline rush for them to get up and come to work, काम आप करोगे, credit मैं ले लूंगा. And that's reality. And lastly, taking from what Pavitra said on inclusion, a lot of organizations, Pavitra, I don't mean your organization, so please, but a lot of organizations today, we all speak about inclusion, but we speak inclusion only in terms of gender. Inclusion goes beyond that. People who are physically challenged, caste, community, religion, these are all inclusion. I think organizations need to be more aware of that. And I think it will happen. It's a matter of time. But that's it. I don't want to take too much time. But I just want to end by saying happiness is becoming an important part. And one of the things is, there's a company in the US called, I read it in the Financial Times, called Irrational Capital or something. They have started choosing companies where employees are happy and then rating the stocks based on that.
Oh.
So you can see where this is going. Thank you.
Well, I would say it is a fantastic conversation. I'll conclude integrating AI into HR practices. AI will revolutionize, and we need to learn AI, which is very important. Otherwise, as Shiv said, agility is very, very important. Linking HR strategies with business goals is important. HR need to be business savvy. Enhancing employee value proposition, winning the war of talent will require that. Employee value proposition, purpose is important. Expanding I&D initiative, it has to be driven by leaders, then only individual. It can't be a tick box. Absolutely agree with all of you. And promoting holistic, healthy, and happy cultures. It is physical, mental, and financial is also very, very important, because only purpose will not run our households. So we need both. So that is what I can sum it up. And in closing remarks, I would say, as we wrap up today's conversation, it is clear that the role of HR is shaping the future, has never been more critical or more promising. So HR will drive the business. We invite you to stay connected with SHRM and join us for our upcoming initiatives, workshops, and conferences as we continue to shape the future of HR and people managers. Together, let's build a better workplaces for tomorrow, which is happy and full of life. Thank you all so much for joining us, and see you in our next webcast, and wishing you all and all your families a very, very happy 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Achal, and a happy new year to you too and all the panelists here.
Yeah.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year
All
and
the
New Year
best next year.
Thank you.